Welcome to the Career Coffee Chat podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Urban, certified career strategist and executive coach, removing career roadblocks so you can achieve more impact, influence, and income.
And today we have a special show on the Career Coffee Chat live show and podcast. Today we have Jill Windelspecht, and she is going to share with us all about how to have purpose, passion, and unlock your potential. Now, 2021 is off to a great start already. And what's good is we can take advantage of this growth we're seeing in the job market world and in our own careers. In fact, we have reports that say we have 19,000 less unemployment claims in the past several weeks than we have in weeks prior, which is good news. That means less people are getting laid off, more opportunities are happening and burgeoning and happening on the horizon. So we're looking forward to a healthy and productive 2021. I'm so happy to have Jill from Talent Specialist on the show today. And today we'll be talking about how to get clarity around your purpose, passion, and increase your career performance and unlock your potential, as well as leverage your mindset to improve results, confidence, and decision-making. And last but not least, manage change, become more agile, develop a career growth plan that unlocks your potential in 2021. That's a lot to cover. So a little bit about Jill and what value she'll be bringing to the show today. Jill leverages her background in neuroscience, psychology, and 20 years of experience learning from some of the best, including John Maxwell. She's a John Maxwell certified coach right along with yours truly. She helps people effectively lead themselves, lead others, and lead their organizations. I'm very excited to introduce Jill to the show. And without further ado, I would love to say hi to Jill. Jill, great to see you.
Hey, great to
have
see
you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, one of my cohorts.
Absolutely. I love our conversations that we have. But Jill, tell me, what's the main thing we should be looking for in 2021 when it comes to growing our career, having that vision? What would you say would be that first step we need to focus on?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I would say the very first step is getting clarity. Because how can you pursue something that you don't know what it is you're pursuing? One of the great things I love to do every year, and hopefully your listeners have done this. If not, it's not too late. Do it. Is I spend a day or so really recapping the year. Say, okay, what did I do? Of course, my plans change just like everybody else's. What do I want to, what went well, what didn't go well, what connections did I make, what was I learning? And then I do a start, stop, continue for the upcoming year. Mm-hmm. And then I just finalized my goals for this year and wrote them down, which is really critical. Don't just think about it.
Yes,
write it down, because for me, that helps because I'm really creative. I work for myself, and that means I can get completely distracted on different things. I'm accountable to me. So when I get clear about, okay, what it is I'm focusing on, I can become more intentional. And I think intentionality follows clarity.
Well, that's very good. I mean, I hope you all wrote that down. That's a real big, important steps there. Having clarity is so important because it's almost impossible to achieve a plan or any sort of goal or go after anything if you don't have clarity around it. So you're right. And, Jill, it's interesting because while I was late, because normally I do it over the Christmas holidays, but this holiday was moving my mom from Virginia to Texas. And that in and of itself was a little Christmas miracle, an undertaking right there.
Yeah.
I was late to go over my 2020 plan because it's important that I review that every year. And I will admit that I hadn't looked at it very much because I kind of, when I develop it, I kind of know it's kind of cemented. Okay, I'm going to do these things. I looked at it probably early spring and hadn't looked at it since. So I looked at it and I was like, just taking a deep breath, preparing myself to know that not everything would be accomplished.
Yeah.
But guess what?
What?
It was.
Awesome.
Most of it was accomplished. So here's the thing. Some of us are, I would say, afraid to set a goal because we're afraid to disappoint ourselves. right? So we're
Yeah.
almost afraid to put this down in writing because that makes us feel like we have to perform to this thing. And we don't want to disappoint ourselves. We don't like disappointing anybody, including ourselves. And know that you would be surprised how much you can accomplish. And when you're considering what your goals and what your intention would be for 2021 and beyond, I encourage everybody to make them a little aggressive. And also give yourself space and grace if you're not 100%. Every year, I'm not 100%. There's one or two things just fall off the map because either it didn't work or whatever, COVID.
Yeah, right.
Right? Things are different. I couldn't quite do a KID talk this year. So I'm not even putting it in my 2021. I was like, we'll see when we can do that. But yeah, so share with me, those of you who are tuning in, what is your big goal for 2021? And Jill, you mentioned, not only is that reflection so important, but having clarity around where to go. A lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with developing that clarity. So for you as an expert in the field, what would you say to someone who is like, I think I know what I want, but I'm not really sure what's the first step? How do I have these expertise. Maybe they want to make a pivot because that's a big deal right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And a lot of the people, my clients that I coach, I ask them, what is it that you want? What is, what's your purpose? What drives you? What's your value? What's really important to you? And these are usually senior executives, mid to senior level executives. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they're like, I don't know, I just want to get to that next level. And I'll say, well, why do you want to do that? What is it that's driving you? How does it really support what's important to you? And what's happened is they forgot, because when most of us, if you go through college or even high school, they get you to really think about what do you want to do over the next 3 to 5 years. And you do that planning, you come out, then you get into the world, you work in an organization, and all of a sudden you just wait for them to tell you what's next. And you're not really thinking about what you're starting. Maybe you're doing some things that you really like to do, but you've kind of lost sight of your real purpose and what really motivates and drives you. And then you expect others to do it for you. So the first step is to really do some exercises, some reflections that get you really clear about what's really important to you. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I'll kind of briefly explain this exercise that I have them do. But some of these executives, as they're reading back and sharing when they've thought deeply, they're crying because they're gotten in touch with their values, what's important.
Right.
And they hadn't done that in so long, and it just revealed so much to them that it made their decisions clear around what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, how they wanted to spend their time. So this exercise that they would do is one that I did when I got certified in coaching for emotional intelligence about 20 years ago at Case Western. And Richard Boyakas talks about understanding your ideal self. And it's really a series of exercises where you're getting really clear about, what are the things that are really important to you? What's on that bucket list? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Who's around you? Who are the people that you're around? Where are you spending your time? What kinds of things are you doing? Not what job title are you in, but what kinds of things are you doing? What are your values? And the values exercise is really interesting because, we give them like 100 to choose from and say, okay, choose 20. Now choose 10. Now rank the top 5. And it's really hard for some people. But that's where, like you said, the goals are hard to write down. The clarity is hard to get because you don't want to say this isn't important. Well, yeah, if everything's important, nothing's important. But let's really, what do you really value? What's really most important for you? What's really top of mind? And we talked earlier about, people that go into transitions where maybe they have babies, they have a family, and it shifts and changes. And that's okay. Your purpose doesn't have to stay the same forever. And your focus doesn't, because your life changes. But when we get really clear on what we really value, that helps us make better decisions. So it's really taking the time. There's no shortcut to it, because you can either take the time and understand yourself better and then make the good decisions for you, or you let others make a plan for your life. And I promise you, they're not thinking and caring as much about it as you.
No.
So it's
And
really
9 times out of 10, they will wake up and what I call the mid-career crisis.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time because, I mean, face it, when we go through college, we get out of college, all we're interested in doing is paying the bills, right? And hopefully getting out of mom and dad's house.
Right.
And so we do that. Yeah, make money. I want to make money. I want to make money. And early on, and I do coach sometimes, younger professionals. And what I hear often is, I just want to make money. I want to move up. I was like, okay, you're thinking about starting a family, right? Oh, yeah. I want to start a family. I want to move up. I want to be, senior vice president. Okay. And as we mentioned earlier, Jill, what do you need to give up to go up? Because when you go up, it's not like you get more free time.
No, you're responsible for more people. You're responsible for more things.
Right.
You have to sacrifice. It's that law of sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice for that?
Yeah, and having that hard conversation, because I do coach a lot of executives, and they've arrived, and they're like, "This doesn't feel. It's like a jacket that's too small. It doesn't fit right. It doesn't feel quite right. It's not hanging well. I can't move the way I wanted to.
I thought it would be so great when I got here, and now I'm like, why did I want this?
Yeah, it wasn't quite what was on the advertising label.
Yeah. Someone else thought I should do it, or other people did it, and so I just thought I should.
Or my parents, my dad really expected me to, so there's, think about it when you're establishing that true north for yourself.
Yeah.
Have the hard conversation. Because sometimes, no, actually all the time, we have beliefs and labels on our persona that are not established by us. They were established for you. And being able to have clarity around that and understanding where those boundaries need to be for you can show up as your authentic self. Because I guarantee you, if you don't and you're trying to live for someone else's dream, you'll be like me. I was in a moment in my career where the next step for me was VP, director, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I tried it. I did. I tried the whole thing because for my profession at the time, and still is true for that profession in continuous improvement, once you move up to a certain level, you will travel like all the time. And I had to, and that's not what I wanted to do. It did not match my overall life purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens, Jill, when you're misaligned with your life purpose?
It's that they call it cognitive dissonance, and it causes frustration if you're a leader, you become dissonant. And what happens is it impacts every part of your life. And so your relationships are bad. People, and I've had that experience myself where it's like, they can just smell it on you. And I reflected, I could smell it on myself. I'm like, who would want to be around me right now? Because I'm so miserable and it's just showing up everywhere. And you're tense. And it impacts your health, which impacts your life. Right? It's very, very serious. Right. So if you continue to have that anxiety and in it just because you are, there's so much evidence right now that just shows you're more prone to heart attacks, heart disease, cancer, all kinds of symptoms that will show up that can impact you from a physical way.
This drives your body.
If you ignore it.
Yeah. Where you are here drives your body. And it's so much science and so much research is proving that right now. And saying if you are at dis-ease, so if you're not at ease, if you're at dis-ease, it creates disease.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so true. And, we're not saying that, hey, you know what, only do what you love, only do fun things, only do great things, and it's going to be easy. No, that's not true. We were talking about earlier, everything worthwhile is uphill, right? So just, getting that clarity doesn't mean you're going to have this, epiphany moment and everything's just going to be easy forever. No, it means that you can make better decisions.
Right.
And that helps so much. That's like when I talk about the leaders that I was coaching around this, and once they got clear on this, they struggled less in the decisions they needed to make because they were really struggling with how should I do this? Should I say yes to this or no to this? Or, I don't know what to do next. And once they got really clear, then they had a benchmark. And that's what that clarity gives you. It gives you a benchmark to say, okay, if I said this was really important to me and this is a strong value, and maybe it is family and spending time with family, how will this next job support that?
Right.
And if it doesn't support it, how long will it not support it? Can I sustain it? Maybe it's 6 months, 12 months, and it'll really help accelerate me, and then it'll ease off. Okay, I can put up with that because I know it may be short term, right? But if it's not, and it's just going to, continue to be like that, then you got to really say, what's, really more important? Right. Is that value important?
Absolutely. Gail has a great synopsis here. She said, reminds me of the CFO CEO who then asked, which of these projects is the most important? And the answer you get is all of them. I guess that means none of them. Yep. So, yeah, absolutely. We cannot do all things at the same time. In fact, I was with one of my coaching clients yesterday. We're having a great conversation around one of her direct reports who did not understand how to prioritize. So everything was a priority, which meant nothing was a priority and nothing was getting done. So, and of course, she lived in this constant state of frustration and dissonance and just upset and miserable. So I have a quick question. And if you don't have an answer to this right now, Jill, no, don't worry. We can pop it in the comments later. But is there a website people can go to download some sort of framework around how to understand what their vision of values, what that priority, life priority might be for them? And if that's not something you can access right now, don't worry about it. We can always put it in the comments later. But I was thinking that might be useful for people to take that first step, because we think we want X, but when we really start getting true clarity around it, sometimes we understand that's maybe not quite what we thought it was.
Yeah, well, I think, it's one of the more recent people that has some great tools is Simon Sinek, Sinek. And he talks about find your why. And, that's what that is. Why? What's your why? What's your purpose? Because your why can drive you.
Yeah, that's a great book.
So he's a great resource. He talks about the golden circle, and you can Google that on YouTube. And I've shared that several times around it, because he does a really nice job, because people buy into your why. Because not only is it important for you to get clear about what you want, next step, you got to articulate that. I'm working with someone right now who that's what he needs to do. So we're getting clear about what he wants so he can articulate it. He calls it his personal brand. Because I told him, I said, he had just had a really good conversation with his boss that he wouldn't have had, if he wasn't really thinking about being clear and intentional around that, instead of, him wanting her to guess what he really wanted. And she said, hey, get really clear on what you want, because once you know what you want, then you can communicate it to others.
That's right. And that's
so important. Let them know, hey, another executive I was coaching, they do succession planning in their organization. And it was around that time. And, when you're coaching these executives, you're usually meeting with their manager as well. And we were prepping her for that meeting. And she went through this whole exercise she had done on visioning and what's important to her, and had that conversation with him. And it was so helpful for him. And he thanked her so much, because now he knows what kinds of things are important to her right now, what kind of opportunities she wants to be put up for, what values she really has, so that when those opportunities come up, she's top of mind.
Right. And that's so important. And a lot of people really struggle in this area. And for those of you tuning in, let me know if you have ever felt any sort of cognitive dissonance when it comes to your career versus what your values are. You weren't really sure what was going on, but things just didn't feel right. Or you struggle to articulate that goal in your career, because that's so incredibly important. And a lot of people don't do that. They think that their hard work speaks for themselves. And it doesn't. So your hard work
to get tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be very clear about it and specific. Don't expect people to guess.
Yeah, I spent, before I started my own business, I spent about 20 years in large organizations, and was responsible for the talent management, succession planning, and worked with a lot of these senior leaders and high potentials. And, I'd ask them, well, what do you want to do? And like, well, what do you think I should do next? And I said, well, do you really want me to be deciding what your next career move is? Because we'll be selfish and think about what we need. But boy, wouldn't it be helpful for us to know what you would like to do? And why don't you take control? And so it's okay if you're thinking in that way too, right? A lot of times fear stops us because we're worried that if I tell them that this is something I really want, then maybe they won't think of me in this way around this anymore. And, I'll just keep it to myself.
Right.
It's not serving you, because if you want someone to help you, you need to tell them what you need help with.
Mm-hmm. That's
where
very true.
you want to go.
And your supporters too, and your broader network as well needs to know, because your next opportunity, hopefully, ideally, if you do your networking well and intentional and continuous, it will come before you need it. And that's the ideal state, is for that new opportunity to come to you, and it's the right one because you've articulated that goal and what you wanted to accomplish to the broader network. That's
a great point, because as you're networking and you're looking at, how can I help others and how can I help them? I usually, I'm always asking, well, how can I help you? What kinds of things are you looking for? And when people are really specific around what kinds of things they're looking for and opportunities and people they want to meet, I'm like, okay, let me see if I can help you. If they're really broad and vague, like, oh, anyone in HR, anyone in this, and like, oh, okay.
I just want to grow my career. Oh, okay.
I'm sure you hear that a lot. Yeah, I want this kind of position. Well, okay. And you just, people can't help you as much, and you can't help yourself. Mm-hmm. So another way that I talk about it, I do something called destination mapping. And think of it like with a GPS, and you're going on a trip and you put your destination in your GPS. Well, the GPS, the way it works is it actually calculates the route backwards.
Yes.
It doesn't go from where you are to where you want to go. It goes from destination and looks at the best path. Well, when you are clear on your destination, then you can start working backwards towards that. And then it gets a lot easier to know, hey, and you may veer off it. That's okay. But getting clarity around that destination is going to help you so much.
Yes.
You may have to take some detours, but you know where you want to end up.
Mm-hmm.
You can get over that.
Change. I mean, if you decide that you want to shift your destination due to a life change, that is also okay. It's not set in stone. It's your destination. Yeah. But it's important to have some idea of where you're going. And you're absolutely right. Reverse engineering from the target is so important. And at the more tactical level, let's just say you're looking for a new job. Well, you have to have a target. Otherwise, you cannot express the relevant career contributions. You can't network with the right people for the right roles. You cannot express those goals and your contributions in your LinkedIn profile, which is very important. So all of these foundational materials aren't complete until you know where you're going. Yeah. You can't optimize for those roles. And then you're scrambling around every time you apply, rewriting your resume, which is crazy. And if it's too vague, and if they even see your resume, which is not likely because applicant tracking systems are looking for relevancy, they'll like, well, do they know what they want to be when they grow up? We're not sure. So it's career clarity is so important, whether you are comfortable in your current job, whatever, you just want to see more growth, or whether you are in transition.
Absolutely. In life, getting clear around, like one of the books that I discovered, and it's not a new book at all, but really resonated with me over this last year, is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Search for Meaning. And if you haven't read that, I really encourage you to read that. He's an Auschwitz survivor who was also a psychologist and had been doing a lot of work before he was put in the camp. And then when he came out, his life was really dedicated to continuing that work. And he did work around finding your purpose. And they did a longitudinal study around people and asked them questions to see if they had a positive purpose. And they were in their, mid to late lifetime, right, in age, and asked them these series of questions. And they found that for those who saw a positive future and a positive purpose, had 25% less heart disease, heart attacks, cancer, all of these things. And for someone who, I can't imagine something worse than being in a prison camp like that. And what he noticed is that those people who were clear around that, hey, there is going to be something better. I don't know when, but know what that purpose is and hold on to that purpose. What he says is, if you're clear on your purpose, you can suffer through anyhow to get there. And I think that applies to us all the time, right? If you're clear around what's important to you, you can suffer through the hard times because you can see something more positive at the end.
Right. Right. You have something to shoot for. There's someone said something to me, and it's always stuck with me. May you always have something to look forward to.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the mindset, right? And when everything I put together really focuses on, my mantra has been mindset, skill set, action set. But the mindset, we have to get really right first, because people know how to, you guys know how to gain skills, right? It's pretty easy to gain skills. Taking action, some people need to, follow the Goya rule, get off your A rule and put it into action. But mindset is the one where I think we have the most impact for people, because they just don't understand, like you said earlier, a lot of our beliefs and the things that are holding us back are formed by the age of 9. These self-limiting beliefs. And you don't even realize they're there. They're unconscious. And they are driving your decisions. They're driving who you connect with. They're driving
or don't.
What you think about yourself, what you think you can do.
Yeah.
And to uncover those is just magic. That's why I like doing what I do. When I, work with people and they kind of get the aha moment and they've uncovered something about themselves that helps them move forward, that's when I just get my satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, really uncovering those self-limiting beliefs is huge. I went through that in my, as a younger person, and still going through that. I mean, once you start peeling back one, I'm like, okay, so we can get rid of that. And then there's another one. And okay, we can get rid of that. And it's a process. And what's beautiful about it is throughout the whole process, you're becoming more free.
Yeah.
You're becoming more free to be whoever you want to be. And it's up to you. See, that's the beautiful thing that people don't understand. You don't learn this in public school. You don't learn it in public education. They don't teach you this necessarily in college. They don't teach you how important that your mindset is, how important and powerful your brains are, how it drives your body, and how simple just automatic negative thoughts will always get in your way and sabotage your entire life. And you can control it. I mean, it's amazing how just awe-inspiring our brains truly are, and we're not taught how to use them. We're taught how to memorize things. And that's
and we get reinforced for that, and there's the 4-letter word that starts with F, and that's fear. Fear stops us every time, because when we have stuck our neck out, especially early in life, we were told, no, you can't do that, and that's not for you. Girls don't do that. Boys don't do that. People like us don't make that kind of money. People like us don't have those kinds of jobs. And then we believe it.
At a fundamental level. So what's interesting is some of the reading I'm doing right now about neuroscience, the different brain waves. It's young people. So up until the age of about 6 or 7, they're in a certain brainwave state that things almost go automatically into the subconscious mind, which is then imprinted in the cerebellum, which the cerebellum is the seat of all of our automatic programs. The things that we don't think about, that just drive us, we aren't even aware of it. We aren't even aware that we have limitations around money or positions. It's interesting. I was talking to a professional, which she's going to be in the show in February, Judy Smith. She is talking about how, it's not imposter syndrome. It's misnamed. It's actually pioneer syndrome, because you are the first in your knowledge of your family to go into a certain position, role, or purpose. No one else has gone there, or you've been told that you can't. So you're feeling as if you shouldn't.
Right. And then other people pull us down because now if you grow and do something bigger than me, then that may make me uncomfortable. So people will pull you down.
Right.
And it's getting really clear around that because, our rational thinking brains aren't really formed until, I think, sometimes in our 20s, quite honestly. We can't make great decisions.
Yeah, it's not fully formed until late teens. And now we're doing new studies to say probably mid-20s because of influence of social smart devices. But anyway, I won't get off on that tangent. Gail has something she has to add here. She says, the problem is I've experienced that is having clarity about what's important to you and having fear of communicating those values to your CEO because you realize his or her values are not a match. Too bad you can't see that mismatch during the job search. Actually, you can ask some questions during the interview process. You may not have access to the CEO at the time, but you can ask some questions around that helps you understand what is important to them. One of my favorites is what does performance excellence look like to you for this role? And typically you're asking that of the potential hiring manager or key stakeholders. And their answers can give you a lot of insights into what they think is most important. For example, we just all, buckle down and get it done. Well, they're going to work you to death. That's what that means. So you can infer a lot from how people say things and what they say. Now, that's not saying that you get total clarity, but yes, if you're misaligned with your organization, that's hard.
Yeah. And getting clear around, you mentioned something about a lot of less unemployment going on, right? And so also I'm thinking about the fact that, hey, if you guys are in leadership roles, be prepared for a lot of people leaving your organization if you haven't treated them right and had conversations with them around what's important to them.
Right.
As well. Helping your employees get clarity helps you lead them more effectively. And you having clarity in what's important to you, so you're clear on what your purpose is, you're communicating it, you're living it, you're modeling it. That is the best way to get other people engaged. But if they know, they can see, they can tell if you're miserable in your job. They can tell if you're not really clear on what's important because you're not talking about it and you're not asking them about it. So it's great news, but also be leery. I've already talked with some other companies who their employees are starting to leave and look elsewhere. And
particularly since they've been overworked. It's been a leaner organization, particularly in 2020. Yeah. And my concern, Jill, and what I've seen holistically over the number of downturns and the number of years leading up to this, is it never quite cycles back to this point where we have enough talent to spread the wealth. Mm-hmm. Companies are always running leaner, and it seems to be getting tighter and tighter. We're expecting each individual to hold up so much more weight, and it's not alleviating. There's no sense of, okay, now we're going to hire enough people. It's, well, I can hire one person. Well, you need 5.
Yeah, especially when there's uncertainty, it causes people to, be more reserved around their hiring around that as well. But if you're looking for opportunities and looking at other companies too, you do have to ask those questions like Aaron said, but you have to be really careful because they're not always going to be forthright about all the ugly warts that are going on in there. And so also know that, if you're dissatisfied in your role, in your job, in your company, have you done everything you can to be clear around where that discomfort's coming from? Have you had honest conversations with them around maybe what you want to do or how what's happening to you and how it's impacting you? Because I work with so many leaders, and I'm sure you do too, Aaron, where they just haven't had that conversation. They assume that the others should know what's going on in my head when, guess what? Everybody's focused on themselves. So most people are focused on
There's a lot of things going on. They're not paying attention to you.
Yeah.
And you have to be
clear first at where you're at. Figure out if really where you're at is where you want to leave before you do that. Mm-hmm. And I know there's toxic environments, toxic organizations, and I always encourage people to leave those. I've been in one myself, and it's impacted me physically, mentally. It was terrible. And those around me, I saw it impact them negatively too. but do everything you can first to help yourself and help them help you.
Right.
And you can't do that if you're not clear around what you want.
And speaking of, would you say a good step within developing one's own career clarity and understanding where you want to go in your life purpose is being very clear on those limiting self-beliefs? One of the things I ask my clients is in the career assessment that I give them when we start working on career clarity, for example, is, what are your goals? Of course, what would you like to achieve, in general? And then is there anything standing in the way of that goal? And that starts to give me some insights into what might be, holding them up. Because as Linda said, many years ago, her mom told her that I was smart enough to go to college because her dad didn't. She thought that she was protecting me, but actually controlled her decisions. And, parents do a lot of well-meaning things that are basically
Yeah.
Because we don't realize at a certain age, it's imprinting, and it's very difficult to root that out and rewrite that script. It takes a lot of work. Gail asked, is there anywhere I can go to get more of these specific types of questions? So maybe we could help Gail out and the other participants by giving them just a kind of an overview. I don't know if you have just kind of a rough outline of what are some of the steps they could go through. Like, I need to do this first, that, understand my negative self-belief,
Well, here's a good exercise I'd like you to do, and don't do it right now because we're talking, right? But when we get off, and it's a visualization exercise. And put yourself, sit in a place that's really comfortable and see yourself in a year from now. Step into a time machine. It could be, 5 years, but usually 5 years is hard for people to think about. So think about in a year from now. In a year from now, what's happening to you? What kind of work are you doing? Who are you around? What kind of results are you getting? What's happening at home? What's happening at work? What's happening with friends, relationships, the spiritual? And really see it, and take the time to really see it, because we think in pictures. We really do. When we imagine and visualize pictures, we can really see it. And then when you start feeling it in your gut, you're connected to it. Write down what that is. And then when you're going through the exercises of, what's the ideal self, I'd say some good questions are, what are your most important values? What are those things that you do not, maybe top 3, top 5. What are the things that, and there's a free values exercise. I don't have the link to it right now, but I could get it to you later, Erin. What are those things that, I can't live without? What really gives me passion and purpose, right? What keeps me up? What would make me jump out of bed in the morning? What kinds of things would I be doing? How does it help others, this thing that I want to do? And ask yourself too, and I think this is really important, because we talk about, just purpose and passion, and you can't always just do things you like. Sometimes those are hobbies. Hobbies are things that you really like to do. You're good at it, but no one will pay you to do it. Right? Your central purpose is, what do you really enjoy doing? What are you really good at? What do people ask you to do that all the time that you're just really good at? And then what will they pay for, and how does it help the world? It's that intersection of that helps you understand, your purpose. But by getting really clear, what do I value? What's important to me? What is that balance that I want to have? Starting to think through those questions and really being clear around it and honest will get you there. And you don't have to show it to people, because a lot of times we're ashamed because people are going to judge it. And one thing you don't want to do is don't judge yourself as you're doing it. Just let that brainstorm happen. Judge it later, because you have to judge it later. Right? But just throw some things out there. What are 5 careers you would do if you could just do anything? So thinking through those, hopefully that helps you get started.
Yeah, that's a great start. I'll take that. Just one little step further is getting really clear about what your current expertise is. What do you know as a go-to person for? I even go so far as to encourage my clients to write an exhaustive list of tasks, but things like setting meetings, going to meetings, taking many minutes, or writing emails or clarifying documents or whatever it is you do for your profession. This exhaustive list, and then go through it and go, that drains me, that gives me energy, I'm neutral, right? And understand this, because what we don't want to do, and it happens all the time, we have this idea, okay, I want to do X, and we don't really think about it. We don't get really clear about it. We don't dissect it a little bit. And then we hop into X and we realize, oh, it's terrible. It's out of my strength zone. It doesn't work for me, because you don't know what gives you energy and what drains you. And being really clear on that is so incredibly important, because 9 times out of 10, it will already align with your values, but you can be more specific about the intersection of your strengths, interests, and expertise, which really ignites that career growth that will work for you, and making sure that it's aligned with that overarching life purpose, right?
Absolutely. Leverage your strengths. Really get clear on that. If there's a weakness that's career limiting, you need to work on it. But, Marcus Buckingham has done amazing work around, and research and others as well, just around the power of leveraging your strengths and working on it more. You're going to have to work anyway. Why not work at something you'd like to do? Get really good at it. So good that people will pay you in a heartbeat, but you also like doing it.
Right.
And it's never easy kicking back, sitting, if that's what you want. That's not what we're talking about. That's not how, but if you talk to successful people, none of them are doing that. They're being very clear. They also have a lot of intention and persistence. Another book that I love, I read every year. I do workshops around it, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh yeah, I love that one. It's on my list to read.
Yes, it is so good, and you just keep reading. And he talks about those people who were successful, and they were very clear, and they were very intentional. And you have habits. Look at the habits you have right now. Are those habits that are helping you be more productive, or are those habits that are
stopping? Mental habits too.
Mental habits, yes, all those things that you do, because your daily routine will impact your success.
Absolutely.
What are you doing every day to get closer to it? So this might seem a lot. If you've not done any thinking around this could be like, oh my God, this is just way too much. Spend 5 minutes, maybe in the morning, because our brains are really fresh and clear in the morning, and maybe it's as you're getting up, or getting your coffee. Just do a little dreaming and say, what am I going to be doing in a year? What would it look like? And just really start thinking about that, and get yourself in a habit of thinking future focused 5 minutes every day.
In a positive way.
In a positive way, yes. If you're thinking negative, that's not going to help you, because that's going to come true probably as well. We could spend a whole hour on that piece, but yeah. See that positive future. The thing, and it should be things that makes you feel good. It should make you smile when you're thinking about it. Mm-hmm. That's going to get you clearer on what you want, because I promise it's in your subconscious. You just have to ask your subconscious, what would make me really happy in a year from now? What kinds of things?
Yeah, and there's actually a good phrase that we use all the time. Well, I'll sleep on it. And there's a reason for that, because during sleep, obviously, we're accessing our subconscious, and also that part of our brain which remembers everything we've ever done, seen, heard, experienced, everything. It's a major processor, but it takes a little while. It's not like we're going to cough something up right away. So it needs some time to go through all the ones and zeros, and then it gives you an answer. So sometimes when you ask yourself before you go to bed, okay, I really want to know whatever. And then in the morning, you might have an answer. Or if you think about it again, okay, what about this? It may come to you. And that's because that part of your brain, which has, by the way, no capacity for speech. So know that it won't become in words. It will come in a feeling or a picture. Because that part of the brain doesn't have the capacity for speech. But it will be like that gut instinct. That's where it comes from.
The aha moment. You're in the shower and you're like, oh, I figured it out.
Yeah, it finally had time to process. You're like, here.
Yeah, you're priming it. You're priming the pump. This is a big decision for you. Let your brain do the work it needs to do.
Yeah, and once you have that clarity, focus on what you want.
Yeah. another thing I want to share that's really made an impact on me, because I've done a lot of study and application around, the mindset and just getting clear and those limiting beliefs, because we all have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mentors was talking about loving yourself.
Ooh.
That until you can really love who you are in the mirror, or everything, and love your faults as well as your strengths, you're going to be stopping yourself and holding yourself back. But once you realize, you know what? Yeah, I'm really not good at this, but I'm really good at this. And I love that I'm not good at this. I don't love being bad at things, but yeah, this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's who I am. And I'm not going to keep beating myself up around this. When you start to do that, you start to kind of lift a burden off yourself. Yes. So as you're doing this as well, you're going to come up with a lot of those limiting beliefs, those things that your parents told you, your peers told you, people you worked at told you what you should do. Mm-hmm. And another friend of mine really talks about not shoulding on yourself.
Don't should on yourself.
Don't should on yourself. And that's what we do. We should on ourselves way too much. So really, understanding and appreciating who you are and loving who you are. When you do that, it's going to free you up a lot as well, because there is no perfect person here.
No. And I'll be honest.
But we all have gifts.
People ask me, "Oh, Erin, how can you, when I was doing in-person public speaking or even, virtual speaking, they're like, how can you do that? How can you just get up there and just, do your thing?" It's like, well, a while ago, I let go of giving a rip what people thought about me. And I accepted myself for who I was. And I know I'm not perfect, and I've got work on me that is ongoing. And I appreciate that I can do that I have a clarity around the ability to do that, getting continual more information, like through wonderful conversations with you, Jill. I'm getting information here. You know what? I need to do this too. I haven't thought about that. Let's do this. And then, getting this information and having this process, I'm thankful about all of it. Am I perfect? Do I have the Miami Beach body? No. Do I care? No. And there is a nice thing about getting to a certain age.
Would it be nice to have that and be able to do everything you want?
You're like, whatever. But when you get let go of judgment, judgment of yourself and judgment of others, it's a lot for your life. It's a lot for your life.
Yeah, it's that, Bob Proctor does a lot on this. And I think Dr. Thurman Fleet first, talked about it, but that internal saboteur that we have, that self-critic that's so tough. And we're tougher on ourselves than others. And as you were talking earlier, there was a saying that resonated with me over the last couple of years. And it's what other people think of me is none of my business.
I like that.
And it's not that I could care less what people think. Of course I want people to, get great joy out of what I'm sharing with them. But if they don't like me, I can't let that, I can't worry about that. Mm-hmm. And I used to worry about that. Was very much a people pleaser, very much getting satisfaction by other people, verbally telling me things or, non-verbally giving me things too. And that was a problem for me. Right. So when you just stop letting go, and I can't make everybody happy, it's just not reasonable.
Yeah, because you're only making yourself unhappy.
Yeah. So think about that when you're getting your clarity and certainty to say, hey, this is about you and what you want. You've got one life to live. And guess what? It's not that long, guys. And life is not a dress rehearsal. And I know some of us, I worked in a job where I spent 10 years traveling 50% of the time globally. And did I get a lot out of it? Absolutely. But did I kill myself for some jobs in the past where it impacted me, mentally, physically? Wow. Had I been a little more enlightened, I still could be successful, but I may have done some trade-offs in what I did. Yeah. As well. Because I was just seeking sometimes wrong thing.
Yeah, and sometimes we're living for other people's expectations or society's expectations of us. But Jill, it's been a real pleasure having you on the Career Coffee Chat show to talk about this, to share your insights and how to gain clarity, for purpose, passion, and unlock potential in 2021 and beyond.
Yeah.
And really understanding, okay, first of all, we really have to design our career plan from our destination backwards, like a good GPS machine, and getting clear on our purpose, our values, our priorities, understanding what those self-limiting beliefs might be. They're standing in our way, and what we want to accomplish to feel a whole person authentically.
Yes. Yeah.
Did I leave anything out?
No, I think that's good. And I actually have a program that I facilitated it live a couple of years ago called Unlock Your Potential. And it was a 1 year, every 2 weeks we walked through, and it's, neuroscience applied to the things that you need to do to really unlock that. So you can come to my website and I can share how you could access that. But I saw somebody ask a question, what's a good book for self-limiting beliefs?
Yes.
I'll share one in my thought. It's Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, which is a really good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
I have one that's pretty wild out there. It depends on how far you want to go. It's called The Untethered Soul. And it talks about the negative roommate. So that mindset, that negative Nelly that's yammering at you. So some of it I was like, wow, I'm glad I don't quite have that problem, but but it was a really interesting read. So Gerald also asked, how do you balance not caring what people think, within reason, of course, and the contrary concepts in your new book, Erin? So good question. Not caring what people think about you, and understanding how to manage perception. So here's the deal, Gerald. One would hope that one's authentic self isn't going to be repulsive to others, right? So the point here is not to be like, I don't care what people think, I'm not going to take a bath for the next 6 months. That's not really the point. The point here is to say, okay, in order for us to reach our authentic selves, and I'll give you an example. As a younger professional, when I was more concerned about judgment and my performance and performing to some negative labels, negative beliefs that had been set before me, what I call career myths, it actually encouraged me to act in such a way that was inauthentic to myself. I was not being authentic to the person that I was. So when I was able to not only let go of some of those career myths, but also let go of some of those negative beliefs, I was able to be more authentically myself, which also made me more approachable and more easily to connect to, because up until that point, I was unapproachable, metrics-driven, hard-driving worker. And that was not the kind of person that develops a support network very easily. So there's a balance between not caring what people think. What we don't want to be is like, okay, I am living in fear of judgment so much that I cannot move. That's what we don't want. Yeah. We want to be in a space where we're okay with ourselves, because the more okay we are with ourselves, our authentic, true selves, and most of us are good people. I mean, we're all good people, mostly, unless you have some sort of imbalance that otherwise, you're probably a good person. So when you allow yourself to free yourself from this judgment, you can show up much more authentically. People connect with you so much better, and you're better able to manage perceptions because you're better able to communicate your intent, show up in a presence that you want. So hopefully that makes sense. I know that was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good question, because when I've said that before, people are, what do you mean you don't care? It's like, no, I'm not trying to, spit all over people. No, I'm going to show up in my best self.
Right.
But if someone doesn't like me and I'm showing up in my best self, I'm not going to let that, really gnaw at me like I used to.
Right.
Let that
we can be curious. We can be curious about it. Let's just say you're showing up as your best self, and someone you're working with is at a dissonance with you. Then you can be curious about that with that person. Be like, I notice these types of behaviors, or you seem to be uncomfortable around me. Would you like to talk about that? And being curious and open, because when you remove the fear of judgment from your structure, you're more able to have those real, open, heartfelt conversations with people that could potentially be your adversaries and turn them around. So that's hard to do when you're living from a place of fear. That makes sense. Well, because my book talks about managing beliefs, managing other people's perceptions, because that's, the true fact is, while we drive our credibility, we do not determine it. Other people do. So, And speaking of the book, please feel free to hop on coachyurban.com and navigate to books. And enough about me. It's great to have you on, Jill. It's been such a pleasure. We have lots of great, good to see you, Daniel. Thanks you. He said, I agree, Gail, we're our own people. Gail said, I hate comparing myself to others.
That's such a, yes, the comparison trap. Wow.
Yeah. So thank you all for participating in the Career Coffee Chat show today. Thank you, Jill, for being such a wonderful guest, giving us so many wonderful insights for kicking off 2021. And
all right, good luck, everyone.
Until next time, everybody. Ta-ta for now.
Thank you for tuning in on the Career Coffee Chat podcast. It's been a pleasure. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is coachurban@gmail.com or tweet at coacheurban, Instagram, coach.eurban, or reach out to my Facebook group, Elevate Your Career. So I'd love to learn more about you, hear your insights, and what questions you have. You can find out more about me at coacheurban.com. And don't forget, please do reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me at Erin Urban. Until next time, cheers. Here's to caffeinating your career.